great. I love the script. Let's talk about it. Let's look at see the storyboards. And they said, oh, I don't like to work with storyboards. And I would say, oh, right, yeah. So Hitchcock and Steven Spielberg, they need to work with storyboards, but you don't as a first-time director.
Hey guys, it's Sean O'Connell, the managing editor at Cineblend and a co-host of the ReelBlend podcast, and I am pleased to introduce you guys to a new episode of ReelBlend, a bonus episode coming at you for Thanksgiving weekend. This is a brand new interview that we did with Giovanni Ribisi, who we are huge fans of in general as an actor, but we're also bringing attention to his work as a cinematographer in a movie that we have been raving about since we got a chance to see it earlier this year called Strange Darling. I love this opportunity to be able to get people to come back around, especially after more people have hopefully had a chance to see Strange Darling. If you haven't yet, director J.T. Molnar has created this incredible twisted and twisty serial killer thriller that legitimately, if you are watching this week's episode of ReelBlend and haven't yet seen this film, you need to don't read anything about it, don't listen to anything about it, just go watch it. It's called Strange Darling. It's incredible. Hopefully you press play on this because you've already seen Strange Darling and you want to learn a ton more about the production, getting into the intricacies of making the film, but then also just sitting down with Giovanni Ribisi, talking about his career, what led him to become a cinematographer on this film. Maybe you were watching this and didn't even know that Giovanni Ribisi, the famous actor from Gone in 60 Seconds and Saving Private Ryan and a slew of other films and television shows, served as cinematographer on this show and seems to be going down that direction in the back half of his career. So, like I said, really happy to have Giovanni Ribisi come back around to promote a film like Strange Darling. As we get into the end of the year, we start to talk about our top 10 movies of the year. I'm sure that this one's going to pop up. This is part of the reason why it's going to show up. You're going to learn a lot more about the putting together of this film and how it kind of was a little bit of a miracle that they pulled off what they pulled off. So without further ado, this is Giovanni Ribisi joining the ReelBlend podcast for a special Thanksgiving week bonus episode of ReelBlend. Blown away by your movie, obviously, you know.
Oh, thank you.
Let me be one of the latest people to tell you how incredible it is. And it's absolutely going to make my top 10 of the year, which is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
And really appreciate this time. We're a filmmaking podcast. We like getting into the nuts and bolts of it. We're not quite Shot Deck, which I just enjoyed listening to this morning.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah,
that was incredible. What a deep dive. We've had Larry Sher on. He came on for Joker.
Yeah, he's a legend. It was such a privilege to talk to him.
I had no idea that tool even existed. I was blown away by zipping through the shots.
No, I was using that on Strange Darling. Yeah, I mean, it's such a great way to communicate with the rest of the crew and director, and just illustrates everything. It reminds me actually of I mean, it's just terrible. I'm already like dropping names. But when we were doing Saving Private Ryan 3 decades ago, I remember Steven Spielberg would be by the monitor and he would have a massive storyboard chart and sort of just like going through each panel or whatever and marking it off and just sort of executing the day like that. But it was there for everybody to see. Right. And it was just invaluable for us. Yeah, I mean, even as actors.
Listen, you went to Saving Private Ryan. What did you learn from Janusz?
As if we went to war. Yeah.
No, I'm saying you took the conversation in that direction. So I got to go to Janusz. What have you picked up from him over the years that you still apply right now?
Oh my! Well, one of the things that was remarkable was how incredibly shot the movie. I mean, the movie was beautiful, and it was breaking new bounds with the faster shutter. And just the way that their process was, the dynamic between him and Steven. For me, what I was blown away by was the fact that that was the third movie that Steven Spielberg had made within a 12-month period, I believe. Wow. There was Jurassic Park and then Amistad before that. Right. And he was just, I think he had just turned 50 or 51 years old. And he was just on fire. And so was Janusz. They still are. At one point, there's a whole opening battle sequence with Saving Private Ryan that's 27 and a half minutes long or something like that. In the script, it read 7.5 pages.
Mm,
Um, but at one point, we were 2 weeks ahead of schedule on that sequence,
okay.
which is mind blowing in the
Yeah.
context of everybody else being 2 months behind schedule,
Sure.
right?
Right.
Because he just came prepared, and he's the such a virtuoso. I think it was Martin Scorsese that said that he's one of the few people that can walk on a set and see a scene for the first time and sort of know exactly what to do.
Do you
Yeah.
feel yourself getting a little bit closer in that in the more you do it, are you starting to feel that way as well too? When you step onto a set, do you start to think where your lighting is going to be? Do you start to think where your camera is going to be?
I think, I mean, yeah, it just really comes with experience. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm there. I would definitely, though, it doesn't hurt to aspire to such things.
Sure.
I think that, yeah, it's just really about, I mean, the best thing to do is just go out and shoot. As difficult as it is, uh, to do so with all the regulations that people have to put up with and the miracle of making a movie, you just have to find a way to get I mean, it really is about hours under your belt.
Hmm.
um, and study with people that you respect and search them out and be willing, really, I mean, coming up even just as an actor, it was just anything I could to get on a film set.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, so you and I are about the same age. We came up on the same types of films, and
Yeah.
I know a lot of directors were cutting their teeth on music videos and
Sure.
commercials, Fincher and Bay and guys like that. I know
Yeah.
you did some of that. Is that still a proving ground nowadays for up and comers?
Nowadays, I don't know. I'm hearing more and more that that's dying, but then you see people emerge with some of the most incredible, beautiful films, even if it's just like a short film, uh, um, or whatever it is. It's if it's something that's meant for an experimental thing. There's nothing to stop you from grabbing a camera and doing that and working at that daily, hourly, and just making yourself obsessed with it. But yeah, I shot music videos and directed some, and then and was working and shooting and directing commercials as well. And it really is a great forum for anybody to just even just developing soft skills of like dealing with a crew
Yeah.
and organizing and pointing them in a specific direction without a mutiny. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
encountering obstacles, right? Like
yeah,
weather delays and things like that.
oh yeah, and being smart about that. Oh, that to me is 75% of making a movie. If you're directing, this is almost a direct quote from Elie Kazan, who said 75% of directing is attitude, and the rest is talent,
Mhm.
right? And it's really because you're going to be hit with things that make you wonder if it's even worth it at a certain point. Um, and it is, and you just have to have that sort of that muscle, I guess.
Let's come back around to Strange Darling. Obviously, it's what we're here to talk about today. It's so incredibly delightful to have a title that isn't circled on the calendar, isn't anticipated, that just comes up
Yeah.
and everybody sees it and word of mouth pushes it, like you have to go
Sure.
see this movie.
Oh
What is
wow.
your reaction to the response to the film?
I mean, it's a sort of a long journey getting there. Even recently, we were sort of trying to not divulge too much of the process of what it was to make this movie, but at a certain point, I think it's okay and everybody's forgiven, and it is what it is. But I've really truly never seen anything like this
Really?
with JT Molnar, the writer director, and what he went through and what he persevered through. I think that it's that the who was Chekhov said that the writer has one concept and the actors have the complete opposite concept, and together they make theater. And this was sort of the case with the producers and JT and myself. They had an idea, and it took them a minute to adjust, but through that adjustment, um, you know, uh, there was a lot of tourists, as the Greeks say. They shut us down twice,
They
because
did?
because they weren't happy with dailies,
Right.
specifically certain aspects of it. And JT was trying to convince. We started the movie, for instance, this is a thriller film, and we started the movie, the production schedule on the breakfast scene with the Doomsdayers,
Okay.
uh, with Barbara Hershey and Ed Begley. And they were going, well, this is a half day of shooting eggs and things getting, but what is going on here? And for JT and myself, we had prepared and we had worked and built the movie over the course of 5 months on paper. So we
Mhm.
kind of knew exactly what it was, but it was definitely something that JT will even say was a learning experience. Like you start with all the action stuff to go like, no, we're not going to be making something that is just eggs being fried up. Um, Right. There was just a lot of that, and then to the credit of Miramax and the people who were there, who are actually no longer there, but the people who were there, they after the first test screening of the director's cut, the next day, they looked at the scores and the audience reaction, and they gave JT they gave him final cut, which is
Right.
extraordinary. So it
Yeah,
really is a
how
decision. It
rare
really
is
is.
that? Can you talk to that?
Yeah, I mean, it really is a rare thing. Surprisingly so. I remember, I think this was 20 years ago, hearing something to the effect that only James Cameron, Steven Spielberg, and Martin Scorsese had final cut, or some period group of people. It was really extraordinary, And I guess when you do wear all the hats,
Mhm.
including being a producer, and you understand also the impossibility of that job, and so many people don't even know what that is, but it's almost like, what isn't that job? It's literally doing everything. And it's keeping the glue, and it's pushing the train through, and it's delivering a movie. That's a miracle,
Right.
period.
Right.
And walking a mile in everybody else's shoes, you understand. I mean, I'm sure producers have run into filmmakers who have turned in, a blank film because they thought, well, fuck you, don't take my art away, and so again, it is a communal art form. I do believe in giving a vision and a film over to somebody that once a relationship has been established,
Mhm.
and trust has been established. You have to have a final say, and I
Mhm.
think that final say always goes with the director,
Mhm.
all the way through final cut. But again, I think it helps to understand everybody's position.
Well, and over the course of your career, you've not shied away from doing blockbusters, just entertainment blockbusters. There's that balance between art and commerce, and I think the best filmmakers find a way to sort of split it right down the middle and deliver on both sides.
Oh, I've done things that were just embarrassing. I mean, but that was also sort of reaching and almost, just a fuck you to the literati, like just like, in a way to try to find something that is normally looked down on or
Right.
tasteless, and to try to make it interesting or tasteful. And also working with people that I like to work with. Uh, I mean, yeah, I never really looked at it like, studio versus independent or commerce versus art. It really is, um, one of the few. I mean, there's so much money at stake, um, that it really just comes down to the writing and the people the pedigree, really, of the people that who are involved in making a production. This is something that I think that is important to talk about and to touch on, which is as boring as it is, and as much as you know, uh, artists and creative people don't want to get into finances or economics, or they might, from my generation, I'm sure you heard this in the 90s at least, that, they don't want, they don't like to think about money. That's the
Sure.
thing.
Yeah.
But, at a certain point, it's time to put on the grown-up pants
Yeah. Yeah.
and start having conversations where representatives and including unions and everybody, uh, uh, where you need to be able to have those conversations yourself and start talking and speaking for yourself, because there is so much commerce at stake.
Sure. Yeah.
And you need to understand, I think it's important for people to understand, again, how impossible it is to make a movie, and who it is sort of benefiting from certain things, where I mean we have, I think, zero productions going on in Los Angeles right now, or it feels like that. We have
Right. Right.
whole studio lots empty. We have, I mean, and because I think that's because it's just, I mean, it's just too expensive
Right.
to make a film. When you're talking about, there was a production that a friend of mine was telling me about that he's producing in New York with 7 people in a bar, and it's $7 million, and the movie got put into turnaround, which means it's basically being shelved,
Mm.
because it's costing $7 million for 7 people to have a conversation or basically do a play inside a bar. I mean, this
Right.
is insane.
Right. Yeah.
This is insane. So yeah, I tend to go on and I go off in all
Listen,
kinds of
no, you're on
crazy.
the right show. Believe
Yeah,
me, this is
yeah.
the type of thing that people who listen to this show want to hear about. I want to get back to the movie. I want to get into specifically, if we could. And by this point, if anyone is listening to this point in the conversation, you have seen this movie.
Unless they just
So we can talk at
keeled
length
over
about
from boredom.
it. Finances, come on, guys.
Yeah,
We're
right.
digging into it. I want to talk about the final shot in the movie, and I want to talk about the conversations that you had with JT and Willa,
This was
specifically about how long you were going to hold that final shot.
We knew that we were going to do that. It was a conversation right here in this room, actually, where we talked about that, and we just fell in love with the idea of seeing somebody in real time uh, die.
Mhm.
And this was like one of an example of one of the contentious points between the studio and the director. Um, and and we really fought for it. We had to shoot that twice. I think this was independent filmmaking. At the second time we shot it, which is the take that's in the movie, the special effects makeup person got mad because JT gave them a note on something else that we were shooting later,
Okay.
and they stormed off, and it was almost like made a scene on set. So we didn't have a special effects makeup person. The visual effects, no, sorry, the special effects uh, department head, who does explosions and squibs and things like that,
Right.
said, "Hey, I have some fake blood," and so we were, and he pulls out this big, huge tank, and he put it in the back of the truck and put hoses, and he turned it on, and suddenly, Willow, right before the take, was drowning in fake. It was just like there was something wrong with the tank or the pump or whatever, and it was just going. So through all of that, she still, pulled off a performance like that, which was, maybe that's divulging too much, because I don't want to take away from the movie, but that was just a funny anecdote of, and also just shows how talented this person is, that no matter what, her focus was right there. And yeah, and yeah, that was it. We basically, there's this moment where I had a hostess tray. The key grip was standing behind me. We're rolling. I'm supposed to tilt down and then tilt up. and then the key grip comes in and locks the camera off, and we jump in the follow vehicle and watched it, and it was just yeah, it was, I think it was at the end of the movie, it was like one of those moments where it was like, ah, just sort of like what, and just got completely lost in her performance.
Wait, that's not a stage? I assumed you shot it on a stage.
The last shot, no,
Yeah,
no, no,
that's
no,
an
that
actual
was
moving car.
a moving car, yeah,
Oh,
with a
get
host.
out of
Yeah,
here!
and I don't even know. I mean, I think we had the stunt man, the stunt coordinator driving it, so it wasn't the woman, but it
Okay.
was this guy wearing her clothes,
Mm.
and he actually took her pistol out of her hand, and then yeah, it was the big thing was just like don't get too close to oncoming traffic, otherwise the camera will get swiped off.
Unbelievable. I
Yeah,
assumed you were on a stage. That's
yeah,
crazy. That's
no,
really
no,
great.
no, no. Yeah, yeah.
And just if you could, I mean, as an actor, observing this work as a cinematographer, can you just speak about Willa's performance, and
Oh my
the
God,
range that she has?
her and Kyle,
Yeah.
everybody in the movie. Just extraordinary. You know, again, this was an experience that I've never had in 40 years of making movies.
Mm.
And watching what JT was going through. And you have to be aware of what's going on if you're that close and that intimate with everybody, working every day as they were. Um, but they kept faith and they kept their belief and they showed up and they were professional. Um, and it really paid off. This movie lives and dies on the performances, as I think a lot of movies do. Um, and and yeah, that's all I can say. I really, I think they deserve all the praise. They deserve all the praise they're getting. It's just extraordinary.
So we have this conversation on the show a lot. We have a co-host of mine, Kevin McCarthy, who is an
Mhm.
ardent defender of film,
Yeah,
and it cracks me up.
celluloid,
What's that?
celluloid, or yeah, yeah,
Yes,
right,
cellular. And it
right.
cracks me up. I was watching interviews and I see you on the Today Show talking about 35 millimeter film. And
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like, go for good for you, man. That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. Cool.
But then at the same time, you said something which I think was extremely relevant, where you said it doesn't really matter the tool that you use. It's all the other elements that are kind of in front of it, because you've worked with, Ava DuVernay, Michael Mann, all these other people who work in digital.
Sure.
Where
Except for when it comes to film.
well, that's what I wanted to get your
No, I mean,
take
no,
on.
no,
Yeah.
no. Honestly, there are beautiful. One of my favorite movies is a digital. I mean, photographically, is a digital movie. It's just
Which
something.
one, if you don't mind me asking?
The Revenant, which I've been watching a
Oh,
lot of.
okay.
Which is, I mean, it's just go back to it because it's just so extraordinary. I can't believe how beautiful that movie is.
Well,
And
Chivo is Chivo.
yeah, yeah, but he's shooting film right now. You
Is
know,
he?
he's going back. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
There's just something about film for me that even in the context of saying it's impossible to make a movie, it's a miracle to make a movie, that it just makes it uh that much more difficult. No, that you it's not it's just the process of it. You know
Mm,
what I mean? For over 100 years, we had a certain rhythm, I guess, and I'm talking about okay, so roll sound, everybody pays attention, and there's a certain sort of regard for that. And when the camera's rolling, you're spending money and you're being quiet. This is aside from the what I believe is a superior image. And even watching a movie like The Brutalist, which I saw last night, projected on 70 millimeter, um, it was just there was a moment where I was watching it. It's just such an extraordinary masterpiece. Um, but I just there was just a sense of sort of like literally like a physical sensation where it's just easier on the eyes or something. I don't know what it is of watching a projected movie and that sort of analog wavelength. I don't know how to describe it. I just know that it's there for me,
right. Yeah.
and um, it's just uh, uh, better for actors. Better. I just all so all of the above. I honestly I couldn't really imagine shooting I shouldn't say that. I mean, definitely at a certain point, obviously depend, but I really try to focus on film and celluloid.
I want to tell you a quick story if I could. We
Yeah.
just had Alfonso Cuarón on the
Oh
show,
yeah. Yeah. Cool.
and he's working on Disclaimer, the Apple TV show. And
Yeah.
have you had a chance to see that show at all?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so he's telling us about shooting this the scene in the ocean where the kid has to the boy has to go out and save the kid
Oh my
in the
God.
boat. And he says you can't have a 7-year-old in a dinghy, right? Like you can't risk them out in the water. So they
Sure.
had to shoot that in a tank, and they had to find an outdoor tank in order to be able to shoot the bit. But by
Yeah.
this point, they'd shot all the Italy scenes on the beach, and so
Hmm.
Chivo had to match the light. And
Sure.
in order to find an outdoor tank for them to match the light, they had to actually go to from Italy to South Africa because of the change of the temperature and the weather, and they had to go from the northern hemisphere to the
Wow.
southern hemisphere
Sure.
just to match
Wow.
the light.
Wow. Oh, that's really interesting. To match the light and the weather and all that stuff. Yeah. Gosh. Yeah. I mean, these are that's amazing, and the attention to that kind of detail is, I think, why they are what they are. I was just because they're I don't know how much I should say, but I was actually conferring with them a little bit with specifically Chivo on
Mhm.
that, and he preps 5 months of shooting and testing and all of that beforehand, and works on the lenses and the customization of lenses, and it's just like the amount of I mean, it's just incredible. People take it for granted. It's an interesting thing, because I have a little studio, and this was actually the place that, I mean, my company was basically the physical infrastructure for Strange Darling.
Mhm.
And over the years, a lot of people have come to me and said, I want to make this movie here. And I would say, great, I love the script. Let's talk about it. Let's look at see the storyboards. And they said, oh, I don't like to work with storyboards. And I would say, oh, right, yeah. So Hitchcock and Steven Spielberg, they need to work with storyboards, but you don't as a first-time director. And that's fine. Maybe that's true. I mean, apparently Truffaut never worked with storyboards, but there's a part of it that and the overall sort of thing for that, or point, is that if you really want to aspire to something like that, you first have to assume the position, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And sort of, I mean, imitation is the first thing, and learning how to do anything. You don't need $100 million to explore that and to do those kinds of tests, and to really use your imagination for how deep and how hard you can actually work on something.
Right. So this year you were part of something that it's grand and a throwback, and that's the Horizon films.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
having one come out, having one be filmed. What was it like just looking over Costner's shoulder and having him work on a western
It was a dream.
of that level?
Arguably, the greatest screenplays I've ever read. He spent 37 years writing them.
Mhm.
It's an American saga. It's like, it's the third testament, as or whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
Um, and and I have so much respect for him, and love, really, for what he's doing and what he's going through, and how he's persisting. Again, that's a certain kind of person who really just will not give up until he's told that story. And all the sets are still there, and I think a lot of us are just really anticipating
Mhm.
going back out west, and working with him again.
Unbelievable. All right, I'll get you out of here on this one. I turned 50 in February. You turned 50 in
Oh,
a few weeks.
in a few weeks, yeah.
Yeah. Happy
And
birthday
oh,
early.
thank you. You too. Yeah. Well, well, February. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. What
Well,
is that
you turned
milestone?
50 in February. You've
I
already.
turned in 50, so
Oh, got it.
I've
Okay,
been
got it.
50 for a
Yeah,
couple
yeah, yeah.
months.
Okay, cool.
What does
Yeah.
that milestone mean to you? What are you thinking about? How you feeling?
Just straight up full blown midlife crisis. Um, yeah, I'm sort of yeah. I mean, it's a big deal, but then at the same time, it is just a marker, and yeah. I'm very excited, actually. To yeah. I guess that's all I can say about it.
Okay.
Needless to
But
say, I'm a little like, wow. Sort of speechless, I guess. So that's probably more accurate.
that's all right. That's a good place to be for sure.
Yeah.
Well, again, congratulations on everything going on, man, but specifically Strange Darling. It's fantastic. And
Oh, thank you, man. Thank
yeah,
you.
it's truly amazing. And I can't wait for more
Thanks,
people to
Sean.
even check it out. And
Oh,
we appreciate you
awesome.
coming on the show. I hope you come back around.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much to Giovanni Ribisi for joining us here on the ReelBlend podcast. I cannot say enough good things about Strange Darling. So now if you've made it to the end of the interview, I'm going to trust the fact that you guys have seen it, but just the way that JT Molnar strategically puts together the film in different chapters, how the chapters are told out of order, the way that the story really snaps into place, but specifically the way that they change what we expect about the story and some of the judgments that we make on the narrative and different characters in the narrative until we have all of the information, which again sort of like turns a turns a magnifying glass back on the audience and almost says, hey, we know what you were thinking about this character or that character, and we're going to turn it on its head and make you think completely differently and almost feel a little bit bad for jumping to conclusions about certain characters. I loved that. I thought it was a great way to kind of manipulate the story, manipulate the audience, and really come up with a surprising twist throughout the course of the movie. Not just like a big, he was dead the whole time twist, but like a really great, oh God, I didn't even know we were going in that direction, and here's where we are. Also love Ribisi's answer about filming the final shot. And really, really cool to find out that wasn't a stage. I'm blown away by the fact that that's an actual car stunt that they were doing in that one, because that makes the technical aspect of what was happening, and even when you consider Willa's performance in that final shot, even more impressive. And I love hearing him talk about how many times they put it together and the fun stuff with the blood machine and them trying to figure out how to do that. So really, really great. So bonus episode here. Thank you very much for watching. We appreciate you guys checking out the channel. We will be somewhat back on Friday. We don't have a brand new show for you guys, but we are going to have a new and original interview with Peter and Bobby Farrelly on behalf of their new film, Dear Santa, which stars Jack Black. So not a full show, but a brand new interview. The Farrelly brothers coming on. And of course, because you guys know the show, we have to talk to them about Dumb and Dumber and some of our favorite scenes from that movie, but really just a good conversation in general with the Farrellys about their new film and working with Jack Black and their take on comedy and stuff like that. So you're going to want to be here for that. If you're on the YouTube channel, do me a favor, hit subscribe, turn on your notifications. You'll be alerted as soon as new shows drop onto the ReelBlend channel. We appreciate all the love we're seeing from you guys in the comments. Keep those coming as well too. I try my best to read everything you guys post and respond to them when I can. Share the show with some film loving friends of yours or family members, especially around Thanksgiving, as everybody's kind of figure out what to go see. If you want to hear about Wicked and Gladiator, we have reviews of those on the channel. Go back and listen to those, as well as an archive of amazing interviews that took place over the course of the year. And we're going to finish strong. We got a few really good interviews in the can already and are efforting some major ones as well too. So keep it right here on ReelBlend. We appreciate all your support. Hope you guys had a wonderful Thanksgiving. If you're here in the States, hope you enjoy your weekend if you guys are based anywhere else. And we appreciate you guys supporting ReelBlend. We'll talk to you real soon with a brand new episode.